Hi guys, so before we really get started in this video, which is a quick video on how to mix using stock FL Studio plugins, if you've seen some of the other the synthwave sessions that I've done where I've talked about mixing and stuff like that, the same sort of principle applies really, no matter what you're using, whether you're using stock plugins, whether you're using really expensive plugins or free plugins. The same principle applies, and a lot of the plugins, so for example the EQs, a lot of them do very similar things. Some of the ones stand out a bit more. For example, the Pro Q, how you can get steeper curves on that. You can also do mid-side and stuff like that. But for the majority of the time, the same principles apply. So when I'm going to run through this video, it's not going to be so much as how to mix, but it's going to be more of tips and tricks that you can do using stock plugins with FL Studio to make your mix sound better. And I'm also going to talk about some of the plugins that I have used in the previous mixing videos and how to replace those, because a lot of the parameters and features are the same. So I'm going to show you how they compare from FL Studio stock plugins to the plugins that you see me using like most of my videos. I'm going to compare those and show you that what parameters are the same. So if you don't have like the Pro EQ, but you want to be able to use the same sort of settings, I'm going to show you using the parametric EQ. And for example, if you want to learn how to use the volume control in the Nick Romero sidechain plugin, you can get the same effects using likes of Grosbeat, which comes built in with FL Studio. So this video is really going to compare those, show you how they stand up against each other and what parameters are similar, so how you can get the similar sort of a result using either external plugins, third-party plugins, or FL Studio stock plugins. Then what I'm also going to do, I'm going to show you some tips and tricks that you can use to get your mix sound better just using the FL Studio stock plugins. So we'll jump over now and we'll get in and we'll run through some stuff. Although I use FL Studio, I don't use a lot of their stock plugins. You can get a good mix using stock plugins with FL Studio. Some are very similar. Some of FL Studio's range they don't have a decent gate sort of effect, or one that I've discovered in FL Studio. So what I'm going to do today, I've got a track here that I'm currently working on, and it's sort of semi-mixed, and I've mixed it using my plugins that I normally use, so third-party plugins, Pro Q and stuff like that. I'm going to go through these, and I'm going to show you some of the FL Studio plugins that you can use to mix with. And I'm going to show you, and I'm going to replace the plugins that I'm currently using and put the FL Studio ones in instead, and just give you a little bit more insight into the FL Studio plugin. So the first thing that I'm going to look at here is the kick. Now, just before we get started, I'm going to let you know that D is the root of the track, so D. So let's have a look at, first of all, the kick. So what have I got on the kick? So I've got Pro Q on the kick. I just boosted around 800 hertz. It's very, very simple to replace that and use this. So if I was using stock plugins, I would definitely go to the Fruity parametric EQ. So it's quite simple really to replace this one. So it's about 800 some hertz we can replace with. Look, see, very simple. So what the pros and cons of the difference is really between these two plugins? Well, I prefer the sort of waveform to the sort of spectrum analyzer that you get with this plugin. But the plugins are very similar in what they do. Although Pro Q is a bit more advanced and has mid-side EQing and stuff, you can get some very good sounds, and your EQing is very, very good with this parametric EQ. And I'll go into parametric EQ a little bit more detail when I look at the bass. So we can easily replace that, not a problem. So the hi-hat has nothing on the hi-hat. So let's take a look at the bass. So two things I've got on the bass. I've got the Screamer tape delay, which is like a tape saturation. And we can use maybe a Maximus or something like that to give it. You can even use a sound guidizer. And I know a lot of people crack up or hit the roof or stop watching, as some people have said to me before, when you use this. But this is just 4 presets from Maximus. So if we turn off all these and we turn on this tape, getting very similar effects from the Soundgardizer. We can quite easily load up a Maximus, and then we could just even load up that setting itself. We could just quite easily do that and load up the setting itself into this. You know, we can bring it down a bit if it's too much. There's no problems there, but all I'm looking for really is just to give it, I'm just looking to give it a bit more grit to it. It's a bit light, and I'm just looking to make it a bit more heavy and a bit more gritty. I'll just stick on a Soundgardizer. I mean, I've used it before, and just give it a little bit. So we could easily use a Soundgardizer as a saturation, as a very quick one knob saturation tool. If you wanted to go into more detail, you wanted to split the bands up, we would use Maximus. So Kickstart. Kickstart is a volume control. So we could replace Kickstart with a gross beat. So we see we've got a nice curve going like this. It's about 86%. So we can easily go into gross beat, and with gross beat you have more control over what you're doing than you do actually with Kickstart. But I think Kickstart's very, very simple. So we could go to time. So you've got time and you've got volume. So we'll go to volume, and we'll snap the grid to, let's just say 16th, or yeah, even that. So what we're setting a side chain here. So we play this. We want to control a sidechain. So each one of these is our kick. Boom, 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 boom. So we'll set it to 4 actually. Boom, boom. And this will be our offbeat will be here. So set a very simple sidechain up. Right click. We'll right click again, and we'll go to single curve. Right click again. Right click. Right click. Right click. These are all right clicks, so we're going to set up like a saw, sort of seesaw effect. So there we go. So this is very, very basic. We give it more. We could drag these down to say 6 each, -6, and this would affect the sound even more. And then we can control how much of it actually. So this is a full effect on giving it the full sidechain effect. We can tone it down. So this would work very, very similar to the way this works, the mix knob. Okay, so next we'll look at the snare. So again, we have a Pro EQ. We can just replace this, no problem at all, and we can go straight to the parametric EQ. So we can right click. We can change this to a high pass. Using the mouse wheel, we can scroll in and out. We can also do order. Make it very steep, so it's very, very steep. And we use the mouse wheel to change this as well. So we can drag that across there. We dip it around here. Not a problem at all. So the free reverb, I use the reverb quite a lot. So if I'm looking for a quick reverb, I would always go to this one. If I'm looking for something a bit more fancy, I'll maybe go to the vintage and whatnot. So this compressor here, the reason I like this is because you can actually see what you're doing, what you're compressing. Fruit, we could easily go in with this. So I'm going to show you one of the. I'm going to show you the back to the EQ. I'm going to show you one of the good things about the Fruity EQ. So like I said, this is in D. So we're going to the EQ in a bit more. This in a bit more detail. So this is in D. One of the things you can do is if you want to boost certain ranges, certain keys, you can do this. So we can right click on this and we got key. We go to D. Because this one, this is bass, we can use one of these here. So click on D. This is actually giving us D. This is where D would be, and then we can go across to the pink one and we can just drag that up. And that's going to boost the frequency around D for us to make it more prominent in the mix. And that's one of the things that can really help. So let's say, for example, if we're the bells. So the bells and the riff sound. If we want them to sit together, what we could do is we could go to the bells. So first of all, we decide which one is the main sound. So the main sound is going to be this riff. So we find out where this is. This is number 11. And we could get rid of those, and we could add an EQ. And let's look at where this is. So you can see it's around here. Using the spectrum analyzer, we can see so 200. So we can then go to the bells. So we're just curving out a little bit of frequency range for them both sit nicely together. Now these two are a bad example because these two are very, very far apart in the sort of frequency range. But you sort of get my drift there of how we can use the EQ and how we can use the EQ to. You can also use it to find out the key to a track or find out the key to an instrument. So your kick, for example. Sorry, what am I doing here now? High pass. There we go. So what we've got there is sort of a band pass. Make it steep. So let's find where the kick is. So we can see the kick's here. You can also see the kicks here as well. So we're looking at about 200. So right click key. Looking at about, so what is it? Is that on 200? Is it 203 hertz? So we're looking at anything around 203 hertz. So it looks like it's going to be a G. So you can find out the key of the track using this, using the parametric EQ, which is a great feature. So some of the other stock FL Studio plugins that you can use to mix. So I would use a delay. So let's have a quick look at the delay. So when we can get a quick stereo delay, we could right click and then stereo effect. Gives it a nice stereo effect. This controls the feedback. So if we was to hit a note and we had this up full, the feedback will go on for quite a while. If you want a very short feedback, you drag the volume right down and it gives it a very short feedback. So some of the other things we can use, let's go to the riff for example. We've got nothing on the riff at the moment, so let's see if we can make the riff sound better. So one of the things that we can use is the Maximus. There's some great presets in Maximus as well that you can sort of start off with. So let's go to Clear Master, and this makes it nice and loud for us. So we don't need any of this low stuff, so we can bring this down here. We don't need any of the sort of low sounds in. And we can see what it's doing to the mids and the highs. Very, very little to the highs, so we can maybe control the mids a bit more. And we can bring out the highs a bit more as well. Sounds pretty good. So one of the other things that we could do, let's if we say we chose the, let's add some effects to the hi-hats here. One of the other things, the other good stock plugins for FL Studio is the band, multi-band limiter. So we've got the 3 bands here that it controls. So we don't need to worry about the low end of this. So we can control the mids and the highs. So we could bring out the mids and the highs. So this shows you the volume, and this shows you what it's actually reducing in the mix, what it's actually compressing. So if we refresh all right back, we can see it's starting to really pick that. So just quickly explain what this is. So you get your threshold is when it kicks in. Your ratio is how much it lets through. So for every one, so if you've got a 1-to-1 ratio, a 1-to-1 ratio, that means for every 1 dB of volume that comes into this, it's going to let 1 dB through. So basically it's doing naff all. If we change it to 2-to-1, so for every 2 dB of volume that come through to it, it's only letting 1 dB through. And if we then change it to 4, I think you get the drift. For every 4 dB of volume it brings in, it'll only let 1 dB through. And this, the threshold decides when it kicks in. So if we go down here to -60 dB, it's basically every single thing that comes through, it's gonna be affected by the ratio. So if we bring it down, we can see what it's actually affecting. And the knee as well is how quickly it comes in. So you can have a real sharp knee where it it's very abrupt, how much it lets in, or you can have a smooth knee where it sort of does it slowly. So we'll just leave the knee on 100 for now. And let's give it a bit of sparkle. So we've got a nice bit, and what you can also do is limit as well. It's got a built-in limiter. So we don't need to worry about this. We could even go limit this and actually turn the gain right down. So what this is actually doing, in essence, it's sort of filtering it out, because what we're doing is we're actually, any of the low end that's coming through, it's being taken off. So let's listen to this in the mix now. So you can really hear now we've added the high end of stuff into it. You can really hear it punching through the mix. So what we could also do with this is add very basic. And it sounds very, very good. So one of the last things I'm going to look at here now is the Transient Design, and we'll take the kick because this is normally where the kick's used. So if we take a look at the kick, we can see here, so you've got the attack of the kick, which is here, and then we've got the body of the kick, and then we've got the release of the kick. There isn't much attack to this kick at all. And what you're hearing is the thump, the bass, so the thump part of it. There's no attack to that kick at all. So we can actually create an attack using the transient processor. You can hear the kick. You can hear that attack now. We can really hear that attack. This will add an attack into the kick or into anything that you go in any instrument you put it on. We can also add a release which boosts the sort of the end of it, so just for using the kicking example, the release will boost the end of it, and we can see what it's doing here with this. So let's add some attack into it, and drive obviously the volume control of it. We don't really need to worry about the drive. So we can really hear the kick thumping through now. So I can really hear that kick thumping through now. So let's reset all these and let's add some EQ to the kick as well. So now the kick is really thumping through using the transient design, transient processor, sorry. So there we go. So I've looked at some of the stock FL Studio plugins. Some of them are really good and really useful. Some I prefer external ones. You just get used to them. So the ones that I looked at today is the EQ. I looked at the transient processor as well, which really brings life into kicks and other instruments as well. So if you've got like an instrument like a piano and you want to add like a bit more, you want to highlight each note a bit more, you can stick one of these on it, and every note it'll add more. It'll bring the transients really through. So the transient's really the start of it. So if we look at that wave again, this will be the transient here, will be the very start of it. So you could do that as well. What we've also looked at as well is the EQ and delay, which I use in quite a lot of my videos. They're some of the things that I would tend to use. We've also looked at using the sound godizer as like a saturator, just using the very first tab. And for all the people that don't like this at all, because there is quite a lot of people out there that don't like it, we've looked at using the Maximus instead as a saturation tool. What we've also looked at as well is we've looked at Maximus as like a multi-band sort of compressor, if you like, by changing some of the different bands that it uses. And again, we've also used on the hi-hats, wherever they're lurking around, we've added a multi-band compressor. And we've looked at the multi-band compressor as well, and how to really bring the hi-hats to stand out in the mix. So we've looked at quite a few different things in the mix. I'm going to do a separate video on mastering and a final mix. So using FL Studio stock plugins. But for now, I've just showed you some quick tips on what you can, how to mix with FL Studio stock plugins. I also use Bitwig as well, and I can use Logic as well. I also own those and can use those. And I'm also currently looking at Reaper as well as a free alternative. So if there's any DAWs out there that you use, if you don't particularly use FL Studio and you'd like to look at other plugins and stuff, and what the best ways you can utilize stock plugins on different DAWs. Let me know what DAW you use, and I'll certainly look into it. What I'm also looking at doing as well is a universal sort of like how to mix using universal plugins, so free plugins, so your free compressors, free EQs. I'm going to look at some of those, so they'll be available on obviously every DAW. But for now, really, this about sums up this video, guys. So thanks for watching.